ride with me to the other clans and we will defeat the sky people.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.
Hello, hello, hello out there in podcast and YouTube land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, where we talk about horror movies and science fiction films and those key elements that lift them above the average genre fare. Are you new to us? Well, we would like to welcome you to our strange and unique brand of geeky, obsessed criticism. Are you returning? Then obviously we're doing something right and we are grateful for it. I'm getting better at them, David. I promise.
It sounds great. I'm loving you right here.
I am here today with my good friend and co-host, David Horton. David, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing well. Good to be back. Good to be here. Good to do this. It's been a crazy week, but that's a good thing. And I thought you did good on your welcome there.
Well,
See, everybody's happy. It's been crazy. I've been trying to do too much again, kind of thing, and especially getting ready because for those of you who may not know, our normal Johnny people, if you don't know, we would love for you to find out that we're doing a top 5 that we do periodically. It's just a little short thing that we put on YouTube. And then we're also doing a Coming to Get You series, which is just a little brief video of things that we're hearing about that's coming down the road that we're both excited about, or one of us is excited about, the other may
or
not.
that shows promise, possibly.
Yeah, that we've heard about through the news sources. And rather than take up time at the top of the podcast going, this is what's new in genre fiction this week, we just kind of say, hey, this is coming to get you. But so I had to catch up on a lot of that just so I have them in my record bank, so we're ready to do. But basically I spent my time trying to catch. One of the things that came up out of that was a top 5 where we were doing adaptation, and The Arrival showed up on the list that I was looking at, and I went, The Arrival, I love that movie. Tim likes that movie. That's a good movie. We really like. I didn't even know it was based on anything, so found the short story. Found it through Goodreads, and there's a plug for Goodreads, but found it through Goodreads and read it. It didn't take very long. It was a fairly good short story, and first thing I've read in a few months, so it says bad about me, but it was really good. But it helped me get into that whole, is this a good adaptation or not? It was really neat to get in there and see how he does literarily that flip at the end, which is so unique to The Arrival. And I'm not going to give it away, but you should read it. I think.
Oh, come on. We want the spoilers.
No. It's good.
It's non-linear timeline, y'all. Ha, ha, ha.
Oh, see you.
All right. Well, my genre week, I ventured, of course, down the hallways to Shudder, to a little film called Hellbender. I wanted to watch this movie because it got really high rankings on Rotten Tomatoes. And I was like, well, this should be good. Let's check it out. It's a witch story, which I'm kind of into here lately because of Robert Eggers. And I was not crazy about it.
Kind of looks Blair Witchy.
Well, no, honestly, it is more entertaining than Blair Witch.
Okay.
But there are places where it is equally as boring. I want to be fair to these folks because it was clearly made as an independent movie with not friends, but family. And we used to do that. So I don't want to be that mean to them, but this was directed by John Adams, Toby Poser, and Zelda Adams. So it was directed by 3 people, father, mother, daughter. It was also written by John Adams, Toby Poser, Zelda Adams, father, mother, daughter.
Okay.
So basically what it is it's a little movie they made in the Catskills in the woods with very little money during the pandemic. So one of the reasons, if you look at the credits on IMDb, they did everything except special effects. Those visual effects were done by another person. Everything else is them, even camera work. So they were handing off the camera and that kind of thing, like we used to do. So points to them for that. And even the other daughter, Lula, is another secondary character in the movie. So a lot of family going on in this one. The synopsis is a teen and her mother live simply in a home in the woods, spending their time making metal music. Which I found interesting, and I love heavy metal, but it was kind of odd seeing the daughter drumming for her mother in a heavy metal band.
Sure.
Anyway, it was interesting. A chance encounter with a fellow teen causes her to uncover a connection between her family and witchcraft, which causes a rift with her mother. So it's one of those things where it's kind of a descending thing. There is a flashback of witches in the past, but honestly, the script needed retooling. The pacing is really bad. It's cheap and dated looking as far as effects. The effects are like those flashes of psychedelic color that you'd see like in the Dunwich Horror in the late 60s. You know what I'm talking about. No shade toward Dean Stockwell or those folks at AIP, I think, that made that movie. It got nowhere the atmosphere or dread that a movie like Robert Eggers' The Witch has. And I do realize that Eggers had more money, but when you look at the films, they're both pretty much out in the woods, you know, with just bare minimum sets. Eggers did not use real lighting. He used natural lighting. True. And, you know, costumes, and that's it. So I was like, look, you may not have had money, but I think you could have done this better if you'd have put a little more thought into it. So for folks out there that like this film, you can come for me if you want. That's fine. I'm just trying to be a little objective and not like everything that Rotten Tomatoes says is great. This movie, I will say, I will say that there is potential for them to go further because of this film, because it is doing well. It's on Shudder. It got high marks, and who knows? Maybe they'll do a better project down the road, and I hope they do. So. That's okay. What I did this week in my genre week.
Well, there's nothing wrong with low budget or looking like low budget, because you know, we're actually doing a looks like it's really low budget movie today for our lovely podcast. So we are going to journey into the far reaches of the upper atmosphere to a space station, Gamma 3, I think is what it was.
It is Gamma 3.
And doing a little film from 1969, directed by Kinji Fukasaku, or I think it's Fukasaku.
That's how I would pronounce it.
And it is called The Green Slime.
The Green Slime are coming.
Yes, you'll probably hear the soundtrack right now, or the theme song. And if you Google this or look up this title, in case you've never heard of the brilliant The Green Slime, if you Google it or whatever, almost everybody says, you know, a forgotten treasure. Oh, such classic 60s sci-fi. What a great theme song, kind of thing. And I don't necessarily think I agree with that, but it is out there. It is a theme song.
Is it something in your head, David? Will you believe it when you're dead?
It has two writers for this, Tom Rowe and Charles Sinclair. It was based on the story by Ivan Reiner. This has a weird production history, which we'll get into, I'm sure, and we'll talk about a little bit. But I just wanted to know, first of all, I mean, had you seen this film before? And if you did, when and where? What was your first, you know, how did you first come upon the Green Slime?
Came upon this movie in my living room a couple of days ago. I have never seen this movie. I've always heard of it. I've always thought the poster art was fantastic. That like big-breasted woman in the astronaut bubble suit getting attacked by a giant squid-looking monster with a giant eye. I think, and I was like, if that movie looks anything like that, I'm gonna love it. But I did not dislike this movie. I actually enjoyed it immensely while I was watching it.
Well, it's interesting. About 15 or so minutes into it, no, it's longer than that because the creatures don't even show up till about half an hour into the movie.
Right.
Because the whole first part of this movie, key throwing here, but the whole first part of this movie is Armageddon. But anyway, when the creatures finally show up, I went, I wonder if Tim is liking this. And even if he doesn't, this would probably fall into his and Steve Rowe's matinee stinkers. This
Absolutely.
would be one of those. I would rent it and watch it on a Sunday or Saturday afternoon.
I mean, I like this movie in the same way I would like Basket Case. I mean, I actually love Basket Case, the horror film, and it is lower budget than this, but this is in the same line of being almost as funny as it is, more than anything. It's not scary. It's not scary at all. Neither is Basket Case.
It is not scary. It is a particular era of science fiction, which we'll talk about too, I'm sure, when we get into keys and comparisons. But for those of you who haven't seen it, we are going to spoil stuff. So go watch it and then come back. But a brief synopsis is, after destroying a giant asteroid heading towards Earth, a group of scientists unknowingly bring back a strange green substance that soon mutates into monsters that try to take over the space station. And that's all you need to know. There's some science fiction for you there, bud, right there. Mm-hmm. It has a unique cast. It stars Robert Horton.
Is he related to you?
He is not. That's my uncle. No, no, he is not. And he looked so familiar to me. And I was going, I've seen him in a bunch of stuff. And I went and looked at, no, I've seen him in maybe some Westerns, but he didn't really do a horrible lot.
I thought he was probably like one of those 70s TV actors.
I thought so too. And he did a little bit of television, but not a lot. But he had that kind of, who is the star of Wild Wild West?
Robert Conrad?
Robert Conrad-y kind of look to him, sort of thing. It also stars Luciana Paluzzi, who I knew because of Thunderball. She's the Bond girl in Thunderball. And so I immediately recognized her. And then Richard Jaeckel, a good, serviceable background character actor. You've seen him in a bunch of stuff in television.
I've seen him in a million things, and I've always liked him.
Yeah.
The one that sticks out the most was, other than 70s television shows, was I remember him in the Green Berets, that John Wayne movie about Vietnam, or I think it was it Vietnam? I can't remember. Anyway,
Green Berets is Vietnam. Yes.
Was it? Okay.
It's John Wayne's version of Vietnam.
Right.
So it's not
I'm sure it was not an accurate version, but yeah.
George Takei is in that too.
He sure is. He sure is.
Yeah, this was, like I said, it had a very unique production history because it was a joint Japanese-American production. But my first watch note is, if this is a Japanese-American production, why does it feel like an Italian movie? So I looked up and on research, it was actually filmed in Italian studios. And that's why it has an Italian cinematographer and Italian feel to it.
I didn't get that at all.
Yeah,
I just thought it felt like a Japanese production.
But it doesn't, because it's not dubbed.
It's got that Luciana woman in it too.
It is dubbed, unfortunately, but it is not dubbed in a different language. A lot of this has that Italian overdub feel, like a spaghetti Western or a Sergio Leone kind of film. And that's what threw me off from the very beginning. The sound design to this is terrible. The sound in this movie is awful, but it is unique. Are there any scenes that jump out to you or stick out to you, or that you liked, disliked, thought, oh my goodness, what am I watching, or whatever?
I don't know. I mean, this is a treasure trove of stuff. So, I mean, I almost want to say every scene, but I mean, you've got, and I'm trying to do this without revealing any of my few keys, but like, you've got the whole expedition on the asteroid where they find something and he drops it and it splashes onto his pants.
Yes.
And I was like, ooh, it's green slime. That's where they get it. And then when it's on the boat later, it starts like, it looks like soap suds. It doesn't even look like slime.
I've got in my notes, it says, I guess the green foam was not as good a title.
No, because it
Yeah.
is. It's like foam all of a sudden instead of slime.
Yeah.
And then you've got, I mean, anything with the creatures in it is just awesome because they are so funny looking and the fact that they can electrocute you
Oh yeah, with the sparklers in their hands.
with
Yes.
and the sounds that they make. I'm just trying to think of scenes in general. I love when like they're in the infirmary and all of a sudden the monsters start attacking and the nurses are trying to rescue people and they're like pushing them all into a corner. Yeah, there's just a lot of good stuff in this.
And I agree with you. It's hard to like comment on it without bringing up keys because this movie is obviously inspired by so many other movies that came before it. And
really? See, I think movies after it were inspired by it.
Then we'll get to those maybe. But I mean, my two biggest takeaways that are semi-keys is this was a year after Star Trek came on television. This was the same year as 2001. Okay?
Oh, yeah. And Planet of the Apes.
And Planet of the Apes. I mean, which did space so much better than this does. But this just has that whole 50s science fiction aesthetic to me. The spinning round space station with great big pods in the corners.
It doesn't even look real.
No. And
it looks like a toy for a baby. It's like plastic.
Yeah. The miniature work, you know, with the little retro rocket engines firing as it goes along the wire in space and everything. But it's so much. If you can check your logic at the door and just say, hey, I'm going to go along for this ride. It's great. And I love the way they set it up, you know, from the very beginning with the way they do the whole opening city with the little flying car going by on the rope and, you know, on the string and the little cars going on the runway. And it's obviously a miniature set.
All the miniature stuff's gorgeous. It looks just like Japanese miniature stuff, you know, like Ultraman or Godzilla. I mean, it looks awesome, like something you would see at Disney World at Epcot. You know, it's just gorgeous.
Funny you should say that because the special effects were all done by the same team that did Godzilla.
Oh,
so
well, there you go.
That's why it looks so similar. It's same model builders, same type of stuff, everything. But it's such a great, you know, that whole aesthetic of I can just put on a silver jumpsuit with a bubble helmet and I can go into space. No jetpack, no backpack, no nothing. I'm totally decontaminated. You know, it's like, no, you're not, but sure, whatever. I like this as an, you know, from a dramaturge, the storytelling is kind of adequate for this. It kind of starts off with a sluggish start because we're so focused on the asteroid. And it takes quite so long to do all of that before we actually get to the menace of the green slime and everything. But the pacing works pretty good. It's just that the direction, that 60s zoom in, focus real quick, and I'm going to pull out kind of stuff. And the acting and the sound design is just so overblown, you know?
But it looks, I mean, I think one of the reasons it appeals to me is that it does have the look of like Ultraman, which I'm not sure what year Ultraman was shot, the original, but the sets and just the overall design work looks like Japanese to me.
Very much.
I ate those shows up when I was a kid. So that's another reason why this movie appeals to me.
Down to the fact that every time they have to show a clock, whether it's on a bomb on the asteroid or on the wall or in a control panel, it's a clock with hands and a little second hand. I was going, what? You're in a space station and you couldn't even think, oh, maybe it's digital. Maybe it's one of those old flip phones, you know, alarm clock things with the tile, like in Forbidden
like
Planet.
Andromeda Strain.
Or, yeah, Fantastic Voyage or something, you know, but no, it's this, you know, kind of clock. And yeah, the sets, I did find the sets confusing because other than the main big set and then the set that is used for
the infirmary.
The infirmary. Other than those two, I couldn't tell where the hell they were. how they connected, how they went together, what hallway they're going down.
It's because there wasn't any more. I have in one of my watch notes that one of the funniest things is when Richard Jaeckel decides he's going to take control and grabs his gun and goes to run to the action. He's running in place. I'm like, why is he doing that? And I was like, oh, because there's no set. They're saying, make it look like you're running to somewhere. And he runs to an area and then runs in place a bit before he runs off screen.
Yeah.
I was like, that is insane.
And other stuff, they have the typical 60s space party, where they're all kind of, sitting around and may I dance with your wife or your fiance and all of that sort of thing. And nobody in the background is really dancing to the beat. Nothing matches the pseudo psychedelic music that they're playing at all. That was, I could see the limitations that they had in certain sets and stuff, like the redress of the whole control room from the beginning on Earth, I guess the UNSC, which I guess is United Nations Space Command. Or Space
I was
Control
trying to guess that myself. I can't remember what I came up with. But
but it's a redress of the control room that's on the space station. And I went, okay, not a good redress there. It kind of looks exactly the same.
I don't know where this falls in line. This movie, I think, is somewhat racist. I don't think there's any African Americans in the cast.
No,
but I'm pretty certain that that's an African American singing the theme song because it sounds like blaxploitation movie.
Oh yeah, it has that 60s bad jazz beatnik.
It's not even jazz. It's like what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. But it sounds like it was meant for like Blackula or one of those Shaft movies. Yeah. And it does have a 60s sound, but it's not, I don't know that it's jazz. It's still kind of a rock and roll, but it's strange, man. It is really strange. And I'm like, well, that's cool that they're using, African-American music at the time, but why aren't there any black people in this movie? It's outer space. It's the future,
Right. Right.
Yeah, strange. It's very strange.
The casting is very,
white bread.
White bread. Yeah, a good way to put it.
Well, except for the Italian bombshell.
Right. Who's the only one in the silver sparkly suit for most of the movie.
And what's hilarious is she's clearly got an accent, but her name is Lisa Benson.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought of that, but that is so true. We're introduced to these characters that are, Lisa is somewhat one note and very kind of typical of the genre. She's the female, but she turns out to be the doctor, and they want that to be a surprise the way they shot it, but it's not to anybody. And she's the one that actually, cares more about the people, but she's in a love triangle with the two leads, one of whom we're obviously supposed to like, but the other one has taken so much, Shatner shots that he is just, trying. I don't see why anybody would follow him or like him. He is a
he's a dick.
Leader.
I hated him this whole movie. And then he ends up winning in the end. And I'm like, no, Richard Jaeckel's the good guy.
And I think they should have switched it. He should have made the sacrifice play.
Exactly.
And done it. But instead, it was the exact opposite. And I went, no, because you're the reason this happened in the first place. If you hadn't thrown the specimen down, it wouldn't have splashed on the dude's leg.
Right.
It's all your fault.
It's your fault. You're Commander Jack Dick Rankin.
Hi, I'm Dick Rankin.
That's why I don't know. Back to a little bit on production. I was looking at the writers. I was trying to figure out where the fuck did this come from?
Yeah.
A guy named Ivan Reiner was one of the writers. He only did B movies. Charles Sinclair only did B movies, with exception to the Batman series, which we all know is not that great.
Yeah, there you go.
But the thing that blew my mind was it was the Bill Finger had a hand in this, and he's from DC Comics. He doesn't have film credits. So I'm like, how did they get DC Comics involved in this?
I don't know. Maybe through the producer somehow?
I don't know. But there's another writer. There's 4 writers, and it is Tom Rowe, and he is the only one that has decent credits. He wrote the Aristocats for Disney, as well as late 70s television stuff like Fantasy Island and that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I'm like, maybe he's the one that brought some cohesion to DC Comics and these B-movie guys. I don't know. It's just strange.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the DC element in anything in this.
Me either.
You know?
No. And then I've got that most of the background people were American military who just happened to be based in Japan at the time they were filming this. But you said it was filmed in Italy. So
parts of it were filmed in Italy, parts of it were filmed in Japan.
Okay.
But yeah,
there you go.
Most of the space station stuff was Japan. And that's why everybody is basically just American actors in the background, stand there, dance. Put on this motorcycle helmet so you can be in security. What the hell does that mean? That was so weird. They were dressed exactly the same as everybody else, except they had a white motorcycle helmet on. And
okay, that leads me to another very funny thing that made me laugh extremely hard.
Okay,
and
I bet I know.
It's when Captain Martin answers the telephone with his helmet on, and he holds the hearing device to his cheek.
To his cheek, yes.
I've got that. His ear is covered with the helmet.
I've got in my watch notes. Obviously, in the future, we're mutated so security guys can hear with their cheeks.
I almost spit out my drink when I watched that. I mean, that was just one of those gut-busting moments. There were several of those in this movie, and I can't remember them all, but that was one of them for sure.
Because literally the phone rings, and it's a rotary phone that he picks up with the big cord behind him, coming off of it, and goes, "Hello,
hello."
You go, what are you doing? Because it won't fit on your helmet.
It would have been hilarious had he done it naturally. And if there's an outtake out there where he did do it naturally and it clunked.
Yeah.
That would have been like a Leslie Nielsen moment.
Yeah.
I did have one thing that you have not mentioned, I don't think, is that we have covered this director before.
What did he do before?
He did Battle Royale.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So we covered Battle Royale a season or 2 back, and not one of our favorite movies, even though we know that it did pretty much go on to inspire the Hunger Games.
Right.
But yeah, so Kenji Fukasaku is now on our multiple directors list.
And he's the director that did this a lot. So let's zoom in on that moment of suspense. And have terrible music. I think I remember us mentioning.
He had horrible music in Battle Royale, for sure.
This has terrible music. It has that bad oboe suspense. We're trying to do this big scary sequence where the guards are looking in the power room, and it's going to be this big shock when we suddenly see the creature for the first time, and it's playing. It's bad sci-fi, awful music. It just didn't work. It's terrible. Music is terrible. I have that. The lure and capture strategy that we've seen in so many other movies.
Well, it wasn't sulfur.
Right.
I can't. What was it? Salt?
It was salt in the Star Trek. Yeah. But yeah, let's lure it in here and we'll capture it. Oh, that didn't work.
Oh, but we got to open the door and let that guy out.
Yeah. You've got space scenes with them just floating around, landing, shooting 3 of the monsters, and then zooming back off again. I'm going, how are they? Never mind.
I kept thinking, have you not seen Gravity? Did you not know that you could just go flying off into nowhere forever?
Well, and like when Commander Dick arrives after the asteroid mission that's been successful, yada, yada, and they land and everybody's cheering and everything else. And he goes, I want decontamination ran 4 times. And it's my, until the mission's over, I'm in command. And he's being a real dick about it. I'm going, yeah, because you need decontamination when up above you is an entire gallery of people standing in the open. and you guys are, and they're cheering you on. You're down. Where's the decon there? I mean,
it's like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
But they're all just standing around looking
I hadn't
down.
thought of that, but that's a good one. Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't have a hell of a lot on cast, and I certainly don't have any awards.
Okay.
I will say Commander Jack, who we call Commander Dick, is played by Robert Horton, your uncle.
My uncle.
And
Uncle Bobby.
he does look like one of those 70s lead actors from television. He's not as handsome as Robert Conrad. I would classify him in a lesser role as far as
well, he's kind of in between. You remember those 50s ones that we covered in like are those 50s actors that were in like War of the Worlds or It Came from Outer Space, that, you know, that look with the black-haired lead kind of guy, and then he's the transition to, you know,
or the dude from what we just mentioned, 20 Million Miles to Earth, that guy. Yeah, for sure. As you mentioned, Luciana Paluzzi played Dr. Lisa Benson.
But she talked like this the entire time.
Looking all sexy. At the time she made this, she was a red hot Italian redhead that was considered an international sex symbol because of the fact that she was the Thunderball girl in the James Bond movie. So she was a Bond girl. Oh, yeah. I mean, that was their only get really for this movie. If you really, I mean, I would argue that Richard Jaeckel was a good get because I think he's a great character actor, but she was probably the emphasis for the investment. Maybe.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Richard Jaeckel, as we mentioned, played Commander Vince Elliott. He should have been the winner in this. And that's another thing I was going to get to is there is this version is 90 minutes. There is a Japanese version where they took the whole love triangle thing out between Vince, Jack, and Lisa. And they cut out. It went from 90 minutes to 77 minutes. So they cut out like 13 minutes. And I think that was probably wise. I bet this movie would have been much more entertaining had it been faster paced.
Interesting, because I think that's what I must have seen, because I saw this on a Saturday afternoon, shock theater kind of thing. And I don't remember the whole middle of the show dance sequence at the club, and then all of the you left first, Lisa, scene.
You know, you love me, you're just with him because you feel sorry for him, and I'm like, what? No, he's actually better looking and probably a little bit more brave than you are, you dick. But anyway, I think that I would like to see the Japanese cut of this movie. I have a feeling it's better.
I think I did. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So,
but anyway, Richard Jaeckel, character actor. I mentioned that he was in the Green Berets, but I recall him was he in an episode of Star Trek? I wouldn't be surprised if he was.
Richard Jaeckel?
Yeah, it's like a guest star.
I do not think so. No.
But he's done a ton of stuff. I didn't realize how old he was. He was. I mean, he died over 20 years ago, and I just don't ever think of him as being that old, I guess, because I always saw him when I was a kid. And then I've got these other cast members, but I don't really see a point in mentioning them because we don't know them.
Well, and they're all ciphers. Everybody in this is just a straight up cipher sort of, there's the angry commander. Oh, there's the security guy who doesn't know where his loyalty should be. That sort of thing. So
you've got the doctor who's interested in the scientific value of the creature.
Oh my God.
So cliche. This movie did not win any awards.
No,
and it was not
seriously?
it was not on the 1001 movies you must see before you die list.
Damn these people.
Yeah, but I recommend it.
Yeah, I do too.
I would watch it again, and I own it now. So
yeah, you own it. I just again.
You know what? I lie. This movie did win an award.
It did?
Yeah, I just found a note that I missed earlier. This film is listed among the 100 most amusingly bad movies ever made in Golden Raspberry Award founder John Wilson's book, The Official Razzie Movie Guide. So it is a Razzie nominee.
There we go. mostly for that incredible creature design.
Oh, love it.
That I mean, we could just jump on the keys if you want to.
Keys is probably what I've got, other than the lyrics to the song I could recite if you want to hear them. Open the door, you'll find the secret. To find the answer is to keep it. You'll believe it when you find something screaming across your mind, green slime. What can it be? What is the reason? Is this the end of all that breathes? And is it something in your head? Will you believe it when you're dead? Green slime, green slime, green slime.
Which, okay, is a great segue to what's my first key? The Blob, just for the credit song.
That again, or Barbarella, yeah.
Yeah, again, that kind of cheesy credit song. I think Barbarella, because Barbarella has that very Italian kind of aesthetic, of course, and so does this. So I have Barbarella on my list as well. That's true. You're right.
Agreed. Yeah, and we always, I mean, whenever I do these song lyrics, I know I did it for Barbarella, and I think, I did it for the Blob too. So this is our third.
It creeps, it climbs.
Yeah, exactly.
My first two keys involve the miniatures. So definitely Godzilla. We already mentioned that, and Godzilla Studios, which I think is Toho Studios. I think is the group that did the special effects and built all the miniatures and the models. But also it has a very Gary Anderson kind of feel to it. The same guy that did Thunderbirds and Space 1999 and UFO, and all of those effects were done with miniatures and models and all of that.
I read a review that said something that, this movie's great. It's got really funny stuff, blah, 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 blah. And it said, and the acting is better than Space 1999.
Yeah. Well, and I've got Space 1999 several times just because of and I think it's definitely influenced it because of the design of the space station, the design of the sets, these huge blank walls that do nothing. And then in sickbay, you have this little panel you can open up, and there's a panel on the inside of it with all the flashy lights. And oh my gosh, there's a green slime monster behind it, or whatever. That it's very Space 1999. Yeah.
How funny. My first key is going to be into the creature design.
Really?
And I think that these look like Sigmund and the Sea Monsters.
Oh, that's good. That's
from
good.
The 1973 Sid and Marty Krofft Saturday morning show. Sigmund was this little short octopus looking thing that had two eyes and one fang. These just have one eye. I was going to point out, and this is in my trivia, that the creatures were played by Japanese children in bulky monster suits.
Probably all they could afford. Yeah.
Which is, I guess, why they're as short as they are. And, of course, Sigmund was short as well. So there's
interesting. My creature key is the Daleks from Doctor Who.
I could see that too.
This looks like a organic version of a Dalek with one eye and then a bunch of those little bumpy eyes or things around it. And then just one or two tentacle flailing arm thing, danger, sort of thing. But yeah,
Robinson.
Yeah.
Funny. Another key that I almost gave away earlier when I was mentioning scenes is that when they're on the asteroid, they're wanting to bring back a specimen, which is very similar to the 1979 movie that this went on to influence, I'm assuming, and that is Alien. Ridley Scott's Alien.
While you're there, so I have found a list of Alien comparisons. And some of
There's
them
a bunch, I bet.
I did not even realize. So keys that are alien influence. Listen to these.
Okay.
A corporation with quasi-military functions requires a crew to investigate an asteroid. The asteroid contains green slime, aka an alien, who hitchhikes their way back onto the mothership.
Mm-hmm.
Some on the mission want to study the aliens, and others want to kill them. The green slime, aka the alien, secrete an acidic-like substance that burns the crew and their ship. Not really true. They secrete eggs, which make more green slime as opposed to acid blood. The green slime,
they do electrocute you.
The green slime has an incredible ability to heal, resurrect, and procreate itself, just like the alien.
Right.
The crew is able to jettison the green slime, just like the alien, but the final fight has to take place outside the ship, which just happened. And the only one crew member remains and is required to take the fight to the green slime itself. That crew member survives to fight another day. And I went, yes, all of that is in Alien. So maybe Dan O'Bannon saw this and went, hey, I could do better.
I would agree.
Sort of thing. Yeah.
Lots of Alien keys in there. Yeah, I did not write them down, but the one that stuck to me the most was them bringing it on board and it multiplying for sure.
And mine was War of the Worlds, Alien, Spock, even from Star Trek. This kind of don't kill it, let's capture it. Oh my gosh, let's just communicate. Think of the scientific research that we could gain from capturing this instead of killing it. And the commander is always like, no, we're killing it. We're taking it out. No, we're killing it.
So that's really just Star Trek in general, not Spock.
Well, yes.
It's a Kirk Spock thing.
Always.
We should study it. No, we should blow it away.
No, we should blow it away. It's dangerous, Spock. So that I had that one.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned this earlier, and you mentioned the miniatures.
Mm-hmm.
The miniatures remind me also of Disney. And the reason for this, and you probably know, is that if you've ever rode the Tomorrowland transporter or the I can't remember what they call it. Is that what they call it?
Tomorrowland
People mover. That's it.
Yeah.
It goes through Space Mountain and it goes through different rides. And as it's going through certain buildings, there's like a little model of what Disney wanted Epcot to look like as far as a city. It looks like that. It's like there's little bitty lights and little bitty cars and little bitty monorails and stuff. And I was like, it looks just like that. So it's very Disney-esque to me.
Oh, yeah. But amazing when you see the difference in the way these, like the model city in this, or the model city in Logan's Run, which is still just this same quality. But compare that to like the models in Blade Runner, which all those cities are model in Blade Runner, but they look uber realistic.
Right.
As opposed to this, which is like you said, this could be a toy that I would love to play with. Sort of thing, you know.
You had me at Logan's Run. I really want to watch that now.
See, there you go.
We should do that one.
I have, I mentioned before, but I had Italian cinema because this has the same kind of aesthetic as Italian cinema goes. But I also have Naked Gun and Airplane.
I mentioned that already. That's hilarious.
Did you?
Well, when he answers the phone, it's just like something that Leslie Nielsen would do. Yeah.
Because they're playing it so serious, but what's happening around them is so goofy looking or whatever, so don't call me Shirley, kind of thing. And, I hope you didn't have the fish. And he glances over and there's the empty plate of fish. Sort of.
Who were the guys that did those movies? Was it the Zucker brothers?
The Zucker brothers. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just put Zucker brothers movies, maybe.
Yep.
That would probably work.
This has a very James Bond kind of feel to it too. It is late 60s, so it's after Thunderball, but it's before stuff like Moonraker and all of that, where they actually have, the fight on the space station and they're flying around just like this with these little, on wires. And it looks like there's no way you can possibly be doing this in a non-gravity environment, but hey, just do your thing, bud. Whatever.
Right.
So
I get the James Bond vibe totally. And it's got a Bond girl in it too. I mean, what can you say? I mentioned this, I'm pretty sure, when we did Barbarella, but Charles Fox, who wrote the theme song for this film, co-wrote the song for Barbarella.
Okay. There you go.
So there you go.
Yep.
And it's not the Charles Fox that we know from childhood. I don't think.
We mentioned already Armageddon, of course. We mentioned already Andromeda Strain, but even Andromeda Strain down to the, I've got to decontaminate, because, and then the decontamination doesn't work. It still gets out, sort of thing. I've got also Wrath of Khan.
Oh my God. Really?
And I got it because they're talking about, well, somebody's going to have to do this, da, 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 da. And while they're talking about it, suddenly we cut to Richard Jaeckel, and he's sitting at a desk, and he realizes it, and he kind of looks up, and then he kind of turns and leaves the frame. So we know immediately he's going to go do the big rescue thing, just like Spock in Wrath of Khan, when they say it's offline, we'll never make it in time kind of thing. And you show Spock and he gets the thing and he turns and then he gets up out of his chair.
Yeah,
and,
you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, as soon as it
with
happens,
Spock, though, doesn't he look and the chair's empty?
That's afterwards, the same way. Okay. So the reaction is kind of, I have that too. The reaction is similar because in Wrath of Khan, he goes, but they go, yes, we did it. And looks around and Spock's chair is empty. And then suddenly you hear Scotty say, Captain, you need to come to engineering.
Right.
Right. In this one, he goes, someone, so-and-so is already there, sir. And he goes, what do you mean so-and-so's already there? The commander, sir, he's already there. What? And he has that reaction. So yeah, it's the same thing of he realizes it after the fact, sort of thing. And while we're there, I even mentioned the phrase sacrifice play, which is Avengers. Captain America says, you're not the guy to make the sacrifice play and, lay on the wire and let your men crawl over you. And he goes, no, I think I just cut the wire. It's Tony.
That's Endgame, right?
No, that's Avengers, just the Avengers. That's the big fight they have with Banner. And that's when he's doing the, big man in a metal suit, take that away. And what are you? And he goes, oh, playboy, philanthropist.
Philanthropist, millionaire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. I thought you were talking about at the end when they made sacrifices.
Well, because it's ironic. Yeah. In Avengers, he says, no, I wouldn't do that. But he does. Tony's arc is that he does. Yeah.
So yeah, I'll put the Avengers just in general. I have one other that I did not know. I lifted this from IMDb.
Oh, okay.
But you may know it. The cover for a 1983 science fiction book, The Worlds of H. Beam Piper, was based on the asteroid scene in this movie. And I looked it up and it does look a lot like it. So I will post a picture of that in the show note links for people to see that if they would like to see the cover of that book.
Interesting. I have two last ones. One is Fantastic Voyage, because again, the aesthetic in this, when they're trying to do the wireless, weightless stuff, doesn't look very realistic. It looks kind of like wireless, weightless stuff.
Well, and there's also a beautiful redhead in it.
Right. In a tight outfit and everything. Right. Yep. So there's that. Not that I noticed him, of course, but.
And Raquel may have been blonde back then. I can't remember.
She's a brunette in Fantastic Voyage. She's kind of a blonde in the
20 million miles to Earth. No,
1 million years BC.
1 million years BC.
Lots of distance titles.
We always get the million movies mixed up. I do anyway.
20 million miles to Earth or whatever that one was. And then 6 million years. Yeah. And then my last key really is, and I tried to look it up and I could not find it anywhere, but I actually own it. But I didn't want to dig in the basement to find it. But there was a game that came out. There was a board game that you unfolded, and it was a great big, schematic of the spaceship. And you got to pick, it's a 2-player game, and one person plays the alien and one person plays the crew of the ship. And the alien's job is to multiply and slowly take over the ship, killing everybody on the crew. And the crew's job is to, stop the alien infestation. And, every round you roll a dice, and the dice determines how many mutations are born for the alien, and you can place them anywhere that you have been. So if you were in engineering, you can put, I've got 6 babies now in engineering, and in 2 rounds, they're going to grow up and be full adults. And And it was based off of, I think maybe Alien, but it felt just like this. And the creature design was just like this. It was green and blobby. And
I just looked it up because I didn't write it down because I figured you would know it. So I looked it up. But I did read that on IMDb. And the name of that game is The Awful Green Things from Outer Space.
Yes. Thank you. You search better than me. I could not find it because I've played that game a bunch of times and it's really fun.
I knew you would have it as a clue, but I didn't know that you wouldn't remember the name.
Yeah,
so I didn't write it down. I looked it up I just wrote sci-fi board game from the 1970s, and it was the first thing that popped up. So
awful green things.
And they do look like one-eyed green octopus type creatures on the board. Yeah, on the box cover or whatever. Yeah,
we should do an online play of that, and everybody should play it or something.
Can you do that?
I don't know. I'm just making stuff up now.
With like, I guess you would just roll the dice for everybody or whatever. I don't know how you would do that.
Well, I know now, based on TikTok and a couple other things, I've seen a bunch. There's a lot that happened during the pandemic, and there's a lot of remote D&D now, where you can design your board and you actually send it to your players, and you're playing like Zoom in different rooms, but you all are looking at the same map and kind of thing.
I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah. Well, one last thing before we wrap is I found a review of this, and naturally he said, a 60s classic, you should enjoy it, have fun. And the way he described it, I thought was perfect for us. And it reminded me of you as soon as I read it. So I wanted to read it. He goes, watching the green slime, its colorful mod sets, plastic helmeted astronauts, and man in a suit monsters is like sprawling in a beanbag chair, sipping a can of Schlitz while feeling the luxurious shag carpeting underneath your toes.
That's awesome.
I said, that is so perfect. That is such a
Except
perfect.
I would have a Sam Adams and be in a recliner, but yeah.
There you go. Yeah, but that whole feel, it's like, that works. That is the feel of this movie. It is is it a great science fiction epic? Hell no, but it's a lot of fun to watch and enjoy.
It's a blast. Yeah. I mean, it's not as good as something like War of the Worlds, but in ways it's almost as enjoyable because it's
for different reasons.
Right. Totally different reasons. So same reason I would like Basket Case or Halloween, one's clearly great and one's clearly hilarious.
Right. Totally true. Yep.
So, but I guess that's going to do us today for our venture into outer space and the green slime. We would like to thank all you folks out there for listening. If you're listening on the airwaves of our podcast, however, if you are viewing us on YouTube, we would like you to take just a moment to lift that finger up and press that subscribe button, or give us a comment down there as well, where you can let us know what you think as far as our thoughts concerning this movie.
Yes.
If you want to hear more of us, we also have a Patreon channel that is called Johnny Has the Keys, where we do 2 bonus shows. Actually, we have bonus shows in addition to some subscription content. And those subscription contents are a Star Trek show called the Dilithium Chamber and a X-Files show called the X-Files Declassified. So you can find those over on Patreon. Yep. And other than that, I guess I'll be seeing you. I think we're back in Sci-Fi Land next week too.
We are. It's going to be fun.
All right. I'll see you then.
See you then.
All right, bye.
Bye.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.